Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a pretty serious claim being made by Pauline Hanson and Barnaby Joyce that Australia is facing a hidden fuel crisis. So we're going to break down the problems they see, who they're blaming, and the really drastic solution they're calling for.
Okay, so the whole argument really kicks off with this powerful accusation. The claim is that there's a huge disconnect between what the government is telling everyone and what's actually happening on the ground, especially out in rural Australia.
And here's where you see that clash, right? On one side, you have the official government line. Everything's fine, no crisis here. But on the other hand, these speakers are painting a totally different picture, one where fuel distributors are struggling and supplies are genuinely running thin in some places.
Now, according to them, this isn't just some political squabble. They're arguing it's a real-world problem with immediate consequences that start in the country's heartland and then, ripple all the way out to the cities. They lay out this whole chain reaction. You've got farmers who literally can't work their fields, tradies who can't get to their jobs, and these fuel distributors who are stuck making these impossible choices. And right at the center of it all, they say, are the small, independent suppliers who are on the verge of going broke. And this number, well, this represents a massive financial chokehold. The argument is, with fuel prices going through the roof, these independent suppliers just can't front that kind of cash for a single tanker of fuel, especially if they can't get credit. They're saying this is a huge reason the supply chain's actually breaking down.
And here's the kicker. The point they're making is that a fuel crisis out in the bush doesn't just stay in the bush. They argue that if farmers can't harvest their crops and the trucks can't deliver them, the end result is going to be empty shelves in city supermarkets. And that, of course, affects every single Australian.
So if there is a crisis, then the next question is, how did we get here? Well, the speakers are pointing the finger in two main directions. What they call the predatory behavior of big corporations and a long, long history of government failure.
So first up, they're going right after the major fuel companies. The claim is that these giants are deliberately price gouging, using their massive market power to just squeeze out the little guys. And any fines they get from the government, they just treat it as a cost to doing business. It's nothing to them. And this kind of puts that accusation into perspective. When you're talking about a $35 billion industry, the argument goes that the fines meant to stop bad behavior are just pocket change. It just doesn't make a dent, and it lets them dominate the market. All right, now for the second target, long-term government policy. This timeline is used to show that for decades, under both major parties, Australia's ability to actually produce its own fuel has been systematically dismantled, which they argue has left the entire nation incredibly vulnerable. And this really gets to the national security argument. The speakers are highlighting that Australia doesn't even meet the 90-day supply that's mandated by the International Energy Agency. It's a standard that other countries, like Japan, just blow right past. They're calling this a critical failure of foresight. So, faced with what they say is a crisis, the speakers don't just point out problems. Nope, they propose a really dramatic solution. And they're calling on the government to use a powerful piece of legislation that's already on the books. And this is the tool they want the government to use, the Liquid Fuel Emergency Act. It's basically a law designed for worst-case scenarios, giving the government extraordinary control over the country's entire fuel system if a national emergency is declared. And when we say its powers are all-encompassing, we're not kidding. Invoking this act would let the minister take control of all fuel stocks, tell our refineries what to produce, and, this is the big one, manage who can buy fuel and exactly how much. So yeah, this isn't just some theoretical power. The speakers are super direct about what controlling fuel sales would actually mean for everyday Australians, and they definitely don't shy away from the R word. Yep, there it is. No ambiguity, no beating around the bush. They are stating, flat out, that if you invoke this emergency act, it has one clear, unavoidable consequence. The government will have to ration fuel across the entire country. So what would that even look like? Well, their proposal is a pretty clear system of priorities. Fuel would be funneled to essential services, keeping farms running and food trucks moving, while folks in the cities, who have public transport, would see their access cut back. And this really leaves us with the central, provocative question at the very heart of their argument. Is the situation so bad that a trade-off like this, sacrificing urban convenience to secure the national food supply, isn't just an option but an absolute necessity? It's a question they believe the government needs to answer, and fast.